Hey friends, just got back from a good hike out in the McDowell Mountains this morning. The desert's finally a little bit cooler than it's been. I don't expect that to stick around for much longer. But today we are talking about some of the first aid and toiletries I brought out on the Arizona Trail with me. Stick around. Alright guys, for starters, we're going to go through my first aid kit, the great bag of all the sort of stuff that should fix the most likely things that'll go wrong with me. Just a little preface, kind of like the water video last week, you need to know everything that's in your first aid kit and how to use it. So I'd highly recommend, if you buy like a pre-built one from REI or Walmart or something like that, go through it. And maybe at most you should probably go and get some sort of first aid training. But if the best you can do is go on YouTube, it's probably going to suffice. For me, out on the Arizona Trail, since I was hiking alone, I didn't bring the sort of equipment that I'd need to repair myself had it been a really nasty incident, like if I fell down a mountain and like broke my leg. Because at that point, I'm kind of just SOL. I had the Garmin SOS button, the InReach Mini. I would highly recommend that as a piece of your safety equipment, because if something like that were to go wrong, especially if you're going to be a single thru-hiker, I'd highly recommend that. It's good to keep in touch with your family. You can send a little ping up to say, hey, I'm right here, every night you go and camp, or if you get in a really bad situation. Obviously, you're not going to be doing surgery on yourself. So this first aid kit might seem lacking to a lot of people, especially people who are in the first aid field, first responders and such. By no means is this comprehensive, but that's because I recognize I would be alone, and a lot of those options would be out of my purview to do on myself. I probably should have something for sutures in here, but I didn't. Luckily, I didn't have a situation like that arise. But with that out of the way, let's take apart this first aid kit. I'll do item by item with you guys, just so I don't forget anything. So first off, hand sanitizer. Regardless of if you're just out there hiking or if you're going to do some sort of first aid work on yourself, it's important to have really nice, clean hands. Even just good camp hygiene is really important so that you don't give yourself some sort of disease or make yourself sick in any way. This can be a lifesaver out there, and it can actually be a fire starter if you get good high percent of alcohol in your hand sanitizer. So that's another thing to consider. Double use, as you can kind of see a theme maybe. Going on, the best thing, Gold Bond. So this isn't just like normal baby powder, it's actually medicated. So I had quite a few issues with chafing on the trail because, to be honest, I was a little bit overweight when I started. I should have conditioned more. And there was one point where all the fuzz on my inner thighs here was completely rubbed bald. All the hair was plucked out just by me walking. So the chafing definitely got really bad. This stuff, it actually feels like you're throwing menthol on all that, and it saves lives, man. Helps you sleep, and it helps it heal quicker and keep it all dry so you don't get some funk living in there. So you can pick up a good 5-pack of this off of Amazon. I'd highly recommend it. It is not that expensive. This is one bottle I carried for the entire 800-mile journey, and it's still probably 2/3 full. So it'll save your life. It doesn't weigh that much, and you don't need a whole lot of it. So this stuff, it's called Arnica Gel. This is a kind of a natural icy hot. It gives you that really cold menthol-y feeling for all your aching muscles. I would apply this every single night, especially after long, arduous days. It would help the muscles feel better the next day, help with a little bit of that fatigue. And it's made with, what is it called? It's on the back here. Arnica Montana, which is a natural salve that's found probably in Montana. So I wasn't too worried about putting this on me, whereas other essential oils might have some ingredients that are smellables, such as lavender or mint. So I wasn't super keen on using that a lot of the time because of bears. This stuff, I think you can avoid a lot of that issue by using it. I'd highly recommend it. Whoop. And this was recommended by my doctor. It really works. I know some of the natural stuff that people really hype up isn't all that it's cracked up to be. This stuff helped a lot. I went through 2 tubes of this. It was very, very helpful. Definitely a luxury item though. So this one I discovered while I was out on the trail. It's called New Skin. And you can get one of these small tubes of it, or spray bottles of it, I guess, at Walgreens or Walmart, something like that. All in all, this is 1 ounce. The net weight is 1 ounce for this thing. And what it is it's basically a antiseptic as well as a coating that goes on your wound. So you can spray it on your hand on a cut. Like, obviously, oh, there's a lot of really cute doves over there. That's adorable. So obviously you want to clean out your wound best you can with like an alcohol wipe or something like that, and then spray this over top of it. It'll burn a little bit, but then this will make a protective layer. This is also a really, really good blister treatment, and this 1 can lasted me all the way from Flagstaff all the way to the end of the trail. Just spraying a coating of this on my blisters every night before I went to bed. Then you gotta let it like dry for a little bit. It's not too long though, it's really quick. It's kind of cold feeling, but it makes such a strong protective layer that it really makes a difference. And this product, I will not ever not have this in my first aid kit from here on out, because it is an awesome, awesome material. Another issue with it though is that it can stain fabrics, so you don't want to get it on your socks or on your tent or anything like that, but it's really good. One of the best wound care, in my opinion. Some tweezers. These come in handy out in Arizona. There's a lot of things that stab you, that sting you, that poke you and prod you, and you really don't want to, like, say, have a thorn that's stuck in your foot and then have to hike 20 miles out to get it checked out by a doctor or something. These things will really help you. You know, they say it's not the desert that'll stop you, but the grain of sand in your shoe or the thorn in your foot. This is a whole little bag inside of a bag. You want to waterproof a lot of this stuff, obviously. This is for wound care. As you can see in here, I've got some antibiotic ointment to help, you know, if you get a pretty deep cut or if one of your blisters starts going a little gross on you. This can really help you out, help it heal quicker, and make it feel less inflamed. And on top of that, I have sterile gauze tape, as well as a bunch of different sizes of Band-Aids and some alcohol pads in here. As I said, you guys probably know this, but you're going to want to clean that wound, then put your antibiotic ointment on it, and then put a Band-Aid on it. And you're probably going to want to replace that Band-Aid like daily or twice daily if you're sweating and getting all sorts of grime in there when you're hiking or something like that. Like if it's a really bad blister, for example. So these definitely come in handy. Moleskin. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this one too. This is what you put on top of your blisters. If you still need a hike on them, you pop that blister with something sterile or you clean it really good. And then you put this over top of it. You cut the size that you need for your blister treatment. And this basically acts as a second layer of skin. So it'll pad that, allowing it to heal. This is one option for blister treatment. As I said, this New Skin also works really well. And it's a bit lighter. It's a bit heavier. But a lot of people swear by this. This is like the traditional method, if you will. So I'd recommend that. And it can also be used as a bandage if need be. It's basically soft fabric on one side, adhesive layer on the other side. Going on. I talked about this in the last video. Catadine water tablets. These are always a great backup to have. I'd highly recommend them. They hardly weigh anything, but they could really help you out in a pinch. And then, get down to the bottom here. You're going to want your prescription medications. Also, I double bagged them. Really important. So let's go through a couple things that I have here just as general. I have 24-hour Zyrtec, which is an antihistamine. There's a lot of stuff. So I grew up in the Midwest, and then I moved out to Arizona when I was like 10. In the Midwest, I had no problems with allergies. I was great. But when I moved out here, allergy season became a real deal for me. And playing around in the dirt for 2 months, you're going to wake up with a stuffy nose a lot. So for your own sake, I'd highly recommend getting some Zyrtec or something akin to that, some antihistamine, and carrying that with you. It will really, really help you out, I promise. Other thing that's in here is anti-diarrhea tablets. If you've ever had diarrhea out on a backpacking trip, you'll understand immediately why I would never go without these. I'd highly recommend them. Luckily, I never had to use them on my whole AZT Thru-Hike, but if you end up in that situation, it could literally save your life from being all dehydrated and stuff. But they will definitely stop you up for quite a while, so definitely be careful about that. In this baggie, I have good old vitamin I, ibuprofen. I also have naproxen sodium, which they say is a little bit better on your stomach and kidneys, whatever, liver. If you just take Advil, you can get ulcers, and they're finding that it's not the best for you. So I alternated between ibuprofen and naproxen sodium, which is an NSAID. Does the same sort of thing, except I think the naproxen lasts a little bit longer, if I remember correctly. Keeping that alternation made me feel better. I didn't really notice a difference when I was only on Advil for a long time, but just something that I thought might help keep me safer. Another thing you might want to look into is asking your doctor before you go out on a trip, on the AZT trip, for a prescription for 800 milligram ibuprofens. The usual ones you get over the counter are 200 milligram, and if you're already taking 3 or 4 of those a day, you might want to ask about the 800 milligram. They can fill you out a prescription for that, and obviously one pill that's 800 milligrams is going to weigh less than 4 pills that are 200 milligrams. So I highly recommend maybe talking to your doctor about that, but you don't want to take those on an empty stomach, anything like that. Consult your doctor with that. And lastly, in this bag, I also brought a multivitamin, because obviously your body's not getting everything it needs if you're just eating Cliff Bars and dehydrated meals. So you're probably going to need to fill in some of those gaps. I'd highly recommend either a men's or women's multivitamin. And even if you don't remember to take it every day, if you're taking it every other day, every third day, it's helping your body out a little bit and giving it a little bit more of what it needs, because it might be hard to accomplish all that from your Mountain House meals and Cliff Bars, as I said. And then lastly, all your prescription medications that you might need. That'll vary person to person, obviously. And then 2 more items in here. A comb. A lot of people probably don't know this one, but there are these types of cacti out here called jumping cholla that literally a breeze can send these little pin cushions off and into your boots, and they're hard to get out because they're literally just this spike ball. And those spikes have microscopic hooks that hook them into everything. So it's not like you can just grab it and pull it out. It'll then be stuck here. And each time you do that, you're getting thorns everywhere. For those sorts of situations, you use a comb to brush it off. And that's actually much more effective. Funny enough, I had to use this comb on my hike this morning because a buckhorn cholla reached out and stabbed my mom in the leg. So these come in handy more than you know it, and you'll be grateful that you have it. And you know, can keep your style up out on the trail. And lastly, it's rolling around on the floor now, some chapstick. Especially with the sun and the dryness and the wind blowing and all that, you will get chapped lips out there. I had that issue quite a bit because I would always forget to put it on or not really care to. I've never been a big chapstick guy in my life, but by the end of the trail, I definitely got into it. So I'd highly, highly recommend it. If you can find some with menthol, that's even better. Feels nice and cold, heals stuff. And if you can get one with sunscreen, even more bonus points. So that's it for that bag of there's a little bit of toiletry stuff in there and a little bit of first aid stuff. As I said, your needs might differ from mine, and that's completely okay. I hope to just give you a starting point with some ideas of things you might want to consider. And that's what that is. There are also a bunch of different blister treatment methods, like, they're like clear ones. Those are really nice because it helps keep it drained, but you can also keep an eye on it. There are some great videos on YouTube from REI that go over that. One of the things that I really didn't understand in the REI first aid video, though, they said that you might want an irrigation syringe. In my opinion, couldn't you just use a Camelback for that? If you get an object in your eye, or if you need to flush out dirt out of a wound or something like that, I think that that would be more viable, and then you don't need to carry an extra piece of kit. But that's kind of a bit of an aside. Anyway, more toiletries and whatnot. I had this little thing of sunscreen hanging off my bag, off the back the whole time. Never really noticed it. This carabiner actually came in handy when my little solar light that I'll be talking about in a couple of weeks here. It helped, the little plastic strap fell apart so I could run this through and still hang it up from my tent. And obviously, sunscreen. You don't want skin cancer. It's no good. Alright, so now into, this is going to be all the toiletries. I know some of these items can be considered first aid or toiletries, whatever. And again, a little aside, MacGyverisms, the little creative things that you can find a solution with what you have, definitely are important. Don't discount your own creativity to get yourself out of bad situations. Just like that idea with the Camelback. Anyway, wet wipes. You have no idea if you haven't gone on a thru-hike or a long-term backpacking trip. These things are important. You absolutely should not bury them in your waste, though, because animals can smell these and will dig them up, and that's just gross. And it'll mess with the soil biotics. So don't do that. Pack these out. But every single night, I would go through 2 or 3 of these, just wiping down the legs and the pits, you know, do a little wet wipe bath, as I talked about in my clothing video. That little bit of cleanliness makes you feel like a human being. And it keeps the stank down in your sleeping bag if you do that before you settle in for the night. I get that these are a little bit heavy because it's water. I mean, that's probably definitely adds some weight. It's probably a luxury item, but I know other thru-hikers have definitely sworn by these things, and I was no different. I'd highly recommend them, and you can pick them up basically anywhere. So, easy to find, very, very valuable in multiple uses. As with other items. See the theme. There's a thing called camp suds. A lot of people use Castile soap or, you know, Dr. Bronner's, and that would work just as well as this. I got this from an REI, and it's definitely way too big of a bottle. I use probably like this much. This is extremely concentrated biodegradable soap. You can wash your clothes with it. You can wash yourself with it. You can wash your pots and pans with it. But don't just like dip it straight in the stream and like scrub it out and then put your dishwater in the stream or whatever. Take that water at least 200 feet away before disposing of it, because this can mess with some of that water ecology. But this is definitely a lot better than just bringing out like a bar of Dove soap or something like that. The old saying that all the scout leaders used to tell us in Boy Scouts is that one of these bottles can literally be used to wash a 747 airplane twice. So this is extremely concentrated. You only need a couple of drops, and it gets the job done. I would highly recommend it, but maybe a smaller bottle. This definitely weighs a little bit, and I definitely hardly used any of that. I didn't make a dent at all in that bottle. All right, what else we got in here? Toothpaste. I know in here is the toothbrush. Let's find it. Right there. So, little trick. You can get nice, cheap kit of a travel toothpaste and a full-size toothbrush. If you take your knife or a saw or something and saw off the end of that toothbrush, this is all you really need. I know it's kind of crazy to think like, oh, I'm getting weight savings, but for all the other extra stuff I had, I might as well cut that off too, just to save myself what I need. I didn't need more than this. It got the job done, and it's a cool little trick for shaving some weight off. It definitely works. Also, to go with my soap and stuff, I had just one square cut off of a dish sponge. The scrubby end made it a lot better for if I had oatmeal in the morning or anything like that. Definitely came in clutch to have a bit more scrubbing power, so I'm not just dumping sand or whatever into my pot and trying my best with my hands to scrub it. And it helps conserve a bit of the water, which obviously, according to last week's video, is a huge problem on the trail. So it's important to be hygienic, but also save as much water as you can for drinking. This can help aid in that goal. Also, instead of a towel or dish rag, you can just carry a bandana. I talked about in last week's video how you can also use this to pre-filter water. You can use this to like hang your arm up in a sling. You can use it as sun protection. You can use it as a dish towel. You can use it to dry yourself. Like, the limits are endless with this thing. This is a great, great piece of gear to have. There are so many uses for one of these. Really, the sky is the limit. Your own imagination is the limit. So don't discount your creativity. And this is definitely a good thing to have. And then, lastly, little pair of nail clippers. Obviously, you don't want an ingrown toenail, and if that starts hitting you in the middle of a wilderness or something, you're going to be grateful for one of these. I also have a little nail file and nail cleaner for that. This could also help, you know, scrape the crap out of a wound if you needed to. Maybe a little creature comfort for me, but I think it makes a good difference. Also, you might notice, this is a little Crown Royal bag. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. A lot of my containers I used, aside from these plastic bags, I tried to reduce my plastic waste as much as I could on trail. I think all in all, I only made 3 gallon-sized Ziploc bags full of trash, and that includes all my Mountain House stuff, all of my wet wipes, any other garbage I had out there, and I actually saved all of it. But I'll be talking a little bit more about that next week when we're covering food. So anyway, that just about wraps it up. And as always, please, 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 if you have a question, send it my way at trailtime.jake on Instagram or to trailtime96@gmail.com. You can also leave me some questions down in the comments below, or if it's during the premiere, I'm hanging out in the side chat right there. Please watch some of my other videos up there, and as always, like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you're here for the next video. Thank you so much for watching. You take it easy. I'll see you next time.